Hello, friends. Um, One of the more interesting things about my work is that very often my job involves relaying information that people at first may not want to hear. I have to do it often because it's essential to the success of the project and serving everyone's needs, their long-term needs, not their short-term needs. Uh, it's often scary. And fortunately, in my work as a stand-up comedian years ago, I had a rule, which was if something scares you, you kind of have to do it because that's part of the job. So what I'm about to talk about tonight is scary, um, but that means I probably need to do it. Um, and if folks are open to hearing it, great. If they aren't in a place to hear or receive it, that's cool too. I love you either way. But I gotta share and at least log thoughts. Um, I'm kind of a heathen. Uh, when I'm not doing this and not working, I enjoy just being dumb. I enjoy profanity. I enjoy being stupid. I enjoy partying and just not being responsible if I don't have to. And so if you were to know me, like, on a personal level, you'd be like, that guy needs Jesus. Probably. You're probably right. But I actually grew up in the church and spent a lot of time with scripture. And even though I don't really have a personal use for the organized church anymore, especially after all we've learned over the last few decades, I still draw a lot of lessons from what I learned from Scripture. And it's in that vein that I share what I'm about to share. It's not an attempt to tell you to come to Jesus or anything like that. For all intents and purposes, treat this like I'm talking about Back to the Future or a Marvel movie. I kind of take a lot of the Bible with certain grains of salt because of how extreme a lot of the language is and the ideas. But I find a lot of inspiration in the teachings and examples of Jesus, of Christ. And there were several things that really fascinated me about Jesus as a figure, even if it's just storytelling. One being that he chose to surround himself with people the rest of the society in which he came up had rejected as not good enough to be taken serious as religious figures. He chose young people. He chose fishermen who were also, kind of heathens. He chose a tax collector, which would have been working with the Roman Empire, which kind of would have been like a traitor or something. A doctor, you know. None of these people are people you would say, oh, that's a person I should look to for spiritual guidance or counseling. He chose these people to set a standard for bracing inclusion, radical inclusion, inclusion of misfits and rejects. Throughout his ministry, he focused a lot of attention on those that society was inclined to reject and turn away for reasons that might have made a lot of sense according to the rules and standards of the good people of the society. It was interesting to me that Jesus was constantly trying to receive them in. And one of the disappointments of the modern organized church is how much energy spends excluding people. The other idea about Jesus that was interesting to me is the emphasis on grace. The idea of turning the other cheek and constantly forgiving. And even one of his last acts of his life as he's hanging on the cross was to forgive the thief who was hanging next to him just on account of that thief, having faith that salvation was possible. I say all that to say that grace has been on my mind a lot the last few days. When I called my congresspeople a couple weeks ago, I told them that the actions they take on the Epstein matter may turn out to be the most important thing they ever do in their career or their lives, because how they react or don't react to that information will legitimize or delegitimize the American experiment as a sustainable system. That's the most important thing they may ever do. The most important thing we may ever do is something so many of us really may not want to do, and for very good and very legitimate reasons. I've been seeing videos of people who voted for the president beginning to renounce their affiliation and being treated with hostility. And I get how laughable some of the rationalizations are, and I get the rage and frustration we all feel that folks are just now coming to understand the gravity of their actions. But as someone who is in the business of telling people things they don't want to hear, if we actually want to end this nightmare, it is vitally important we unify right now. And to the extent we can help it, work to choose grace. Maybe there's not a market for that. People are still making fun of Michelle Obama for when they go low, we go high. I get that. But it was interesting to me that the founders seized on the idea of join or die as a mantra for the revolution. Those words feel as true or truer today than they even seemed to feel back then. We are at the most perilous time most of us have ever lived through. Our republic, the peace of the world, our moral fabric are all in jeopardy. And with so much at stake, the only hope we have is overwhelming political will and the force of our united voices. The disagreements that we have in good faith, the things we have to sort out, they will be there. And they will be there for most of our lives. Progress is an ongoing conversation. Inclusion is an ongoing conversation. Social mores are an ongoing conversation. We are going to have those conversations possibly forever. And we will take steps forward, we will take steps back, and hopefully we will grow in ways that we are proud of. But right now, we are faced with a very daunting choice of either joining together or dying together. Out of respect for the legitimacy of all human feelings and the dignity that comes with the agency to feel our feelings, I cannot presume to, shame or rebuke anyone for feeling what they feel, saying what is on their heart. But if you actually want to see things get better, if you want this man to be dealt with, if you want to turn the tide, the thing you don't want to do may be the most helpful thing you can do towards that effort. I think it's only by grace that we are saved. I hate having to talk to anyone about Jesus, much less on camera, on Instagram. But as long as we're logging thoughts, that's where my head and heart are at. And I hope those of you who are inclined to even listen to all of this find yourselves similarly inclined to receive and consider. And thanks for considering either way. Um, Here's hoping we find a way to join so we don't die and bring an end to this nightmare. Good night.